Howdy everybody, welcome back to the PepperTCG Elestrals channel. Today I wanted to talk about an old-fashioned deck by today's standards, which is Thunder Nexus. Now Thunder Nexus used to be everywhere just because the individual card quality of a lot of Thunder cards were just so much higher than anything else. And that lasted up until around the end of Daybreak, I would say, where they had that huge ban list that limited, Elechic and Zeus and Arcolith and Race to the Top. The card quality is still high for a lot of Thunder cards, and they keep getting new tools that gives them a much higher ceiling now than they did back then, right? Now, this isn't going to be one of those like hyper combo style of, Electronyte Phosvocell decks with all the Nogs and the Rise from the Ashes and stuff like that, right? We're trying to play that Thunder Nexus game plan, use our really high card quality to kind of trade with our opponent, and eventually get to the point where we can swing really hard in advantage with Electronyte and eventually use Phosvocell to push for game. So it's not the old school style of Thunder Nexus, right? We actually have game plans now. Let me just go ahead and get started here, and I'm just gonna start with all the good old Thunder stuff that everybody knows and loves, right? Let's just get it all out of the way. The 3 Astrabbit Elechic, 2 Jolton, we got the Quackles, and 1 Boombat because this card is super searchable now. I don't know what to say about these other than they're just all really good cards, right? Consistency card, consistency card, consistency card, healer, removal. I mean, all of these cards are super good individually. Elechic searching Zeus is basically a 7 attacker the turn you play it. Astrabbit, insane for consistency. You can trigger it multiple times per turn in this deck because it's Thunder Nexus, and you can Nexus onto it and trigger it multiple times. Jolton is really nice for playing the Stadium Wars and, being able to reach those stat breakpoints to contest, a lot of the other decks in the format. And these two are nice, and, Boombat you can just play as a one-of because it's super searchable. But it's just all the standard, Thunder good stuff, right? Can't really play Thunder without all these. Now, let's get into the bugs. So I am playing 3 Electronyte and 3 Electrifly. Now, if you don't know what Electronyte does, because it is a new card, it is a 2-drop Thunder Lunar. It's a 4/6, so not a whole lot of attack, but the 6 defense stat line is pretty good. It lets you Nexus a Thunder or a Lunar, and if it receives 1 or more Thunder, you can special cast an Electrifly from your deck, and when you activate your Electrifly's effect, you can draw a card. On cast, it'll summon an Electrifly from deck, which then you can use Electrify, which lets you disenchant a Thunder from it to search your deck for any 1-spirit Thunder Elestral and add it to your hand. What you want to do is you ascend this over any of your Thunder Elestrals, right? It summons an Electrifly from deck, and then you can disenchant from it, which will, get rid of it, to search for any Thunder, and then you get Electronyte to draw. So you get a search and you get a draw. And what's really nice is that it lets you Nexus to itself again, and since it's a receive, you can get another search and then another draw. So if you play Electronyte with a Nexus bank, you can search 2 Elestrals and get 2 draws on the turn that you play it. So you just search 4 cards basically. It's a ridiculous amount of card advantage that you get off this guy, and being able to search all of these options is so good, right? Like if you want access to Zeus, you can search Elechic. If you need a Stadium to get rid of an opponent's Stadium, you grab Jolton. If you need healing against an aggro deck, you got Quackle. And if you need removal to out any big guys like a Blizzstrix, well, you search Boombat, and now you have it ready to go. the sheer amount of options it gives you is really nice. So we have these bugs, we have our dark bugs, and now we have our light bugs, which is the Phosvocell line. Now I play 2 Larvacell, 1 Anisel, and 1 Phosvocell. This is basically your late game win condition, and it's also the reason I don't play Arcolith, is because Phosvocell basically is your Arcolith, right? I mean, the goal is to just play Thunder Nexus, you know, out card advantage your opponent with all of your searchers and, you know, your Electronite Electroflies, searching a bunch of cards, drawing a bunch of cards, and then eventually in the late game, you know, after you and your opponent have played for a while, they're going to be pretty low on spirits. They're going to be, you know, maybe they've used a lot of their back row at this point. Now you can just play the Larvacell, go all the way up through the Ascension line, and then out of nowhere, you're just swinging with the Phosvocell for like 8 damage. And it's really, really good. It can be kind of telegraphed though if you search the Larvacell off of one of your Electroflies. So, I mean, basically your opponent's just going to be playing around the Phosvocell for the rest of the game after you search this. But the reason I don't max out on this is because it's so searchable. And you really don't want to be doing this early game unless your opponent is playing some really expensive deck. Also, this is 4 or 3 2-drops and 1 3-drop. So this deck is pretty top heavy, which is another reason I don't want to play Arcolith, because then you would just be adding more. But Phosvocell fulfills the same role as Arcolith of just playing it out of nowhere and just swinging for a bunch of damage. That's kind of its main purpose. But the fact that, you know, the Larvacell is so searchable now, and it's so, you can get to it so easily, you don't need to play 3. Which means you can kind of just play with all of your other cards and, you know, play the typical Thunder Nexus style. And then late game, you just drop a Larvacell, either ascend it over something, attach a solar, or play like a stadium and then Nexus a solar. But it's just a really, really good out of nowhere OTK plan once you get to the late game. And all of these cards give this deck an actual, you know, end game plan now, instead of just playing Thunder good stuff and, you know, beat your opponent to death with Elestrals and Zeus. Alright, so now the runes. We got the 2 Olympus and the 2 Zeus. I don't think you really need any more than this, because, you know, again, this deck has so much consistency already, with Jolton being able to search this, Elestrals being able to search the Zeus, and then you have the Electrofly that can search either the Jolton or the Elestrals. So, you know, these are nice just as Olympus lets you get over a lot of big stat guys, and I mean, Zeus is just broken. I don't need to explain Zeus. 3 Ambro, mandatory Ambro. And then I don't play Earthquake because I don't really have Spirit deck space, so I just play the Laurels because it just helps you swing tempo if you're behind, which you might be against Lunar Aggro, so this helps kind of get back into the game if you have a slower hand with things like rabbits and, you know, quackles and things like that. Or if you had to use an Electrofly really early in the game, because this, you know, you disenchant it to search, so it clears your board, which means it opens up your opponent playing even harder into Laurels. So that's why I have the Laurels and not the Earthquake, because we're already splashing so many different elements in here just for tech cards. It's really hard to fit in the 2 Earths. And then Hurricane. This card, oh my god. You know, people were pretty doomer about this card, but I can tell you from the playtesting that I've done with it, like even Hurricaning for 1, like just getting rid of 1 back row with this, and then comboing up into a Phosvocell and swinging for a bunch of damage, like that's worth. Especially in the mid to late game where your opponent's already, you know, maybe at 10-ish spirits left. You just drop a Hurricane, swing for 8, and then you just put them on Better Have Ambrosia. I only play 2 because this deck has so much search power, and being able to trigger Astrabbit multiple times, it's pretty easy to find one of these 2 copies by the mid game or late game. So, and you don't want to brick on it early game either. So I think 2 is perfect. I pretty much always see it when I want to see it. And then just all the back row. The nice thing about Thunder Nexus, you always have plenty of space for back row, right? Because you're not super reliant on a whole bunch of crazy cards. Your individual card quality is so high that you can get away with, you know, cutting back on a lot of tech cards and then maxing out on the back row. So 12 back row. I don't play Alter. I play Tsunami instead of Alter because I don't know about you, but Alter is either the best card in the deck or the worst card in the deck, and you can never really control that. Like whenever you alter, you know, like Nexus off a Zeus onto a Rabbit, switch one of their guys, trigger Rabbit, like that's the best feeling ever. But then you also get hands where, you know, you might go Electrify Search, you know, with nothing else on board, and one of your only back row is the Alter. So you have a clear board with an Alter that doesn't do anything, and it won't do anything for the next few turns or so. And it just feels bad. So I think Tsunami is just better because it's just more generic and you're not relying on setups to really do it. So, because man, when Alter hits, it hits hard, but when you don't have the right setup for it, it really is just useless. So that's everything in the main deck. So now moving on to the spirits, it's pretty standard, right? We have 3, 6, 9, 12 Thunder, right? I mean, 90% of our deck is Thunder, so we have the 4 Solar for the Phosvocell line. Technically, you only need 3 because let's say you have a Larvacell with a Thunder, you Nexus a Solar to it, right? And then it triggers to go into Anacell. You give it another Thunder, and then you expend 2 Solar to go into the boy Phosvocell, and you can put another Thunder under it, and then you can, you know, trigger its effect to attach 2 more Thunder. And so technically you only need 3 to really go up into the big guy, right? But what's really nice is being able to re-enchant the Phosvocell, because I said this in my last Phosvocell profile. As soon as he hits the board, all of the back row that your opponent plays for the rest of the game is worthless, basically. Because if this sticks to the field, right? Let's say you Hurricaned, so your opponent has no back row on the field, right? So now they're trying to like top deck back row. If they draw a Tsunami and they set it, what you can do is re-enchant it, get 2 more Thunder, and then now you can disenchant to pop the back row. So if it's a Tsunami, they have to chain it, which means this gets switched. But since you played this last turn, you can just switch it back. If it's a shield, it just dies without doing anything. If it's a PTA, you can pop it, and you haven't played anything this turn because you re-enchanted, so it just pops the PTA. And if it's a Gorgons, then it just stalls for a turn, I guess, and then they have to top deck again. They have to top deck like a shield or something just to not die on the follow-up turn. And if you have an Ambro, you can put back one of these Solars and then just do it again next turn. So So technically you only need 3 solar just to do the Phosvocell combo. But I do play the 4th because re-enchanting Phosvocell the turn after you play it does come up quite a bit. So that's my reasoning there. It just depends how you want to play the deck. I have the 1 lunar for the Electronyte, 2 water for Hurricane / Tsunami, which isn't a lot, honestly, because you play 3 Tsunami and 2 Hurricane. So really you only get, you know, maybe 1 Tsunami activation and then 1 Hurricane activation. But if you find Ambro, you can always put 1 back, and then that gives you the 3rd. You might not need this much Thunder, so you can play a 3rd Leviathan, and then that makes your Tsunamis and Hurricanes a lot more comfy. And then I got the 1 Lycoris for the Hurricane as well. So that about wraps it up for the Thunderbug Nexus profile. I think this deck is still solid, right? It has pretty much everything you could want in a deck. It has really good consistency. It's a toolbox style, kind of like Wind Toolbox, where you have removal, search power, you know, access to Zeus really easily, which is also technically removal. You have healing, and then you have a big late game combo that swings for 1,000,000 damage. So, and Electronyte drawing cards is really nice because, man, when you summon this guy and then go +4 in 1 turn, I mean, you are just like, if you search 2 Elestrals and then draw 2 back row, oh my god, there's no better feeling, man. There's no better feeling. So let me know what you think down in the comments. I know Lunar is the shiny new toy now, but I mean, come on, this guy, look at that. Look, he's Lunar. He's a Lunar card. People like playing Lunar now, right? Look at that. There's a Lunar card in your Thunder Nexus deck. How about that? Post video here, I want to give a quick honorable mention to my boy Raiceros as a interesting tech card for the format. If you don't know what it does, it's while this Raiceros is enchanted, Elestrals cannot attack the turn they are cast unless they are Thunder enchanted. The reason why you might want to play this, it's a really good anti-aggro tool against decks like Lunar. Because if you look at all of the Lunar aggro decks right now, they play things like Eddy, Nobby, and then they play like the Werepup Lycovoid line. And Raiceros is really nice. One, because it's a 1-cost Thunder, so it's searchable off of your Electronyte stuff. It has 4 defense, and it's really nice against cards like Eddy, right? Because they play an Eddy, and they can swap this, but they can't attack. It's also really good against Nobby, right? Because if they play Nobby, they use its effect to like reduce stuff, but they can't attack with it, right? And that attack reduction from Nobby only lasts until the end of the turn. So if you have Raiceros in play and they play a Nobby, I mean, it basically doesn't do anything unless they have some other guy on field already. It can also be pretty funny against Lycovoid shenanigans as well. Like if they don't have a Thunder in their Spirit deck and they try to do the Werepup Full Moon combo into Lycovoid, it puts them in a really weird spot. They either have to drop the Full Moon on your turn so that they can play the Lycovoid and then attack during their next turn. But the Lycovoid will no longer be immune to back row. So with your shield and, you know, Gorgons and things like that, you can stop the Lycovoid from attacking. Or they can wait and Full Moon on their turn while you have Raiceros, and it makes the Lycovoid immune to like PTA, but the Lycovoid can't attack that turn. So, depending on how much Thunder your Lunar opponent has gone through this game already, like if they've already used like a Rabbit and a Zeus, you know, they might not really have any Thunder left. So, dropping the Raiceros cuts off like half of the beaters in their deck. You know, even turning off a Spectaris and a Galaxy for a turn can be really nice, because if you drop this and you just basically stall for a turn, and then you can ascend this into an Electronyte, and then like do all your Electronyte shenanigans and draw a bunch of cards. So just a quick honorable mention to my boy Raiceros as a tech card against all these lunar aggro decks running around, and pretty much any non-Thunder deck at the moment, which is a lot, because people don't play Thunder anymore for some reason, even though these cards are still really good.